We're back. Yes, summer is over and we're back to bringing you the most important and weirdest world news.
Over here! Hey, listen up!
Newsy Paloozy. Hello and welcome to Newsy Paloozy, the news pool for curious kids and adults. I'm your host, Leela Shiv Shankar Prickett, and as ever, I'm joined by the Big Story Explainer and Sound Effects Finder, otherwise known as my mama.
Hello. Boy, it's good to be back.
I know, we really needed a break, but I've missed this weekly dive into world news.
Figuring out what the most important and interesting stories are.
And which ones are the most amusing, or just plain weird, which we absolutely have to share.
Totally. And then figuring out, how to deliver them in the simplest
and funniest
way we can. Yes, we do try to be amusing. It doesn't always work.
Not when you sing, anyway.
Not when you tell me not to sing. Yes, no wonder I've missed this.
And in case we have any new listeners who don't know, we're broadcasting from New Delhi, India, because that's, where we live. Most of the year, anyway.
Yes, we're an international family, and that's why we love world news. So, should we, get on with it?
Oh, yeah. This is not a chitty-chatty podcast.
No, not usually.
This week, the space race to the south of the moon is unofficially on, with Russia reeling after its Luna 25 crashes. Plus, we look at the abnormal weather battering America and beyond. In sports news, Spain reigns supreme in soccer, but will victory be betrayed by a kiss? While in Texas, a surprise snake fight more than startles a woman mowing her lawn. Alrighty then, let's dive on in. First up, it's the
Big News Story
of the Week.
So the space race is on, and the field is widening. Do you know what I mean when I say space race?
Yeah, like back in the 1960s when Russia, or should I say the Soviet Union, and America were trying to be the first to land on the moon.
Exactly.
And America won.
Well, they got humans on the moon first, yes. But then they kind of wrapped things up a few years later as space exploration was considered too expensive to really pursue.
But not anymore. And now billionaire business people are in on the action too.
Exactly. And there's the European Space Agency, never mind China, and to some degree Japan, all making significant advances in space.
And India.
Exactly. India's Chandrayaan-1 lunar mission was the first to find evidence of water on the moon back in 2008.
And you woke me up in the middle of the night a few years ago when the Chandrayaan-2 robotic probe tried to actually land on the moon. But it didn't, sadly.
Yeah, that was sad. All that effort. But on the other hand, just think how impressive it is that a so-called developing country like India, where so many people don't go to flash schools with smart classrooms and slick science labs, just think what it's been able to achieve.
What can I say? India is impressive.
Yes, ma'am. And tonight they're at it again, hoping to land Chandrayaan-3 near the South Pole of the moon.
Didn't Russia's Luna 25 just try to do that, but crashed?
Yes. Again, it's so sad, all that expense and effort. It was their first lunar mission in decades. And of course, they were probably hoping to land there first.
But now India will beat them to it.
Well, we'll see. Everyone's hoping.
And why is everyone so fixated on the South Pole of the moon anyway?
Well, firstly, it's an unexplored area. But mostly water. Scientists think water is stored on the moon's surface in the form of ice.
Oh, frozen solid in those deep, shadowy craters shielded from the sun.
Yeah, exactly. And why is water on the moon so important besides telling us more about our solar system's history and makeup?
Oh, because it means we could one day, if need be, live on the moon and have local access to water?
Yep, and even in the meantime, when astronauts want to go there and study the moon, see, getting equipment up there means overcoming Earth's gravitational pull. Guess how much new commercial space companies charge to do that, to take just 1 kilogram of payload or supplies up there?
$1 million?
Ooh, good guess. You got that answer bang on. Have you been looking at my notes?
What? That was a total guess.
Well, guess what? Do the math. That means that a single liter bottle of water costs $1 million.
Wow! So that's some expensive jing. So actually, the cost of the so-called space race could actually save money in the end.
Yeah, I guess that's one way of looking at it. And now, we've been hearing about abnormal, wacky weather around the world for a while now. But it's not often you hear about it affecting the peaceful paradise islands of Hawaii, the U.S. archipelago in the middle of the Pacific Ocean.
Archipelago is a fancy way of saying a group of islands out at sea, in case you didn't know.
Thank you. But boy, has Hawaii taken a beating because wildfires that have killed well over 100 people and consumed parts of Maui, the second largest of the Hawaiian Islands.
Including devastating the much-loved tourist town of Lahaina.
And some rumors as to why the fires have started has been spreading like, well...
wildfires.
Everything from making Maui a smart city to the involvement of artificial intelligence and even energy weapons have been blamed for the wildfires.
Yet still, the exact cause of the fires hasn't been determined.
But some big factors are being identified, like the dry terrain from non-native grass for one. But Hawaii is also a very hilly and mountainous place. And what's at the top of a mountain?
Snow?
Well, not very often in Hawaii, which is pretty warm. What about this?
Ah, wind.
Yes, and as that wind whips around the mountain tops, high air pressure sends it across the mountains. But then the wind heats up and dries as it moves downhill. Yeah, and guess what happens when that wind squeezes through narrow passages like canyons? It gets faster. And if there's already one small little fire in the dry grass plains below, the hot embers get picked up and carried along and...
the fire spreads fast.
Yep, now the big worry is how the destroyed areas are going to be rebuilt, with many residents desperate that Hawaii retains its old charm. It's not the only place hit by wildfires either. In North America, Canada is also under the grip of wildfires, with thousands evacuated from their homes, particularly in native reserves. Further afield, the dry summer season is also seeing wildfires in Algeria, Spain, and Greece. Now let's move to Mexico and California, where it's a different story of wild weather.
We're not talking about wildfires, as you'd expect. Oh no. Dry, drought-prone California is experiencing flash floods.
I know. It's the first tropical storm to hit the region in 9 decades. But thousands of people are without electricity, and streets of northern Mexico and southern California were flooded.
Luckily, it's weakening as the storm moves up north and to the west. But even inland areas are at the risk of floods.
Stay safe, everyone.
What's that? I'll tell you what. That's the halftime bell, which means it's time to hear what's making news around the rest of the world. Hold on tight. It's
Around the World in 80 Seconds.
Hold tight.
8 people stuck in a cable car in Pakistan, dangling hundreds of feet above a ravine for several hours, are dramatically rescued. It was a slow and dangerous operation involving helicopters and zip wires and a lot of bravery. It's Back to the Future as a cargo ship fitted with giant sails sets out on its maiden voyage from China to Brazil. The British-designed huge and extremely rigid sails will not only cut down massively on fuel consumption, but also reduce the ship's carbon footprint, potentially helping the shipping industry become greener. And it's not often that a burnt-out shell of a car is sold for nearly $2 million. But it happens when it's a Ferrari that was driven and wrecked by Ferrari's first ever racing driver. Experts reckon the new buyer will restore it so it can race again.
Well, thank you so much for that. Oh, it's been a while. Can I still do this? That whippity-boppity zippity-zappity rap of what's making headlines elsewhere in the world. Thank you, Mama.
You still got it, girl. The pleasure was all mine.
I'll be ready to play ball!
Sports news.
Well, the parties are still going on in Spain after the women's national soccer team won the World Cup.
Go, Spain, go! Only sadly they had to beat England to get there, and I hate to see England lose.
I know, it was a nail-biter though. And here to tell us more about the win and the post-play celebrations, which have created a little controversy, are our Spanish correspondents, Nina and Marky Graniena.
Yeah, what an amazing goal from Olga Carmona in the first half of the game against England on Sunday.
And even though it was the only point of the whole game, the rest of the match was a nail-biter, I can tell you.
The Spanish La Roja team, that means the red one, managed to hold off the English Lionesses, as their team is called. And did you know Spain is now the second country along with Germany to have both women's and men's World Cup titles?
After the final whistle blew, the Spanish players piled on top of each other and danced until the trophies were handed out. But there was an unfortunate, let's call it, incident during the award ceremony.
Oh, yes. The president of the Spanish Football Federation, a man, was going down the line congratulating everyone, but when he got to Jennifer Hermoso, he grabbed her by the head and gave her a big kiss on her mouth.
Bruh, not cool. I seriously doubt that he would do that with Ansu Fati or any of the men's team.
Right? And that silly act of machismo took all the attention away from the fact that the women's team had just won the World Cup.
Well, Senor Rubiales has offered an apology, and I'm putting that in air quotes, by the way.
And Jennifer is doing her best to get past it.
There's obviously a long road ahead for sports equality.
No doubt, but until then, let's all lift up the women's team and appreciate their amazing accomplishments.
Muy bien, La Roja!
In Barcelona, this is Nina Graniena and Marky Graniena for Newsy Paloozy. Da 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 da.
Awesome.
Thanks for giving us a lowdown on that, guys.
And finally, let's see what the Lucky Dip Machine has for us this week.
Step right up.
Have a go at the Lucky Dip Machine.
The Lucky Dip Machine.
What's it going to be today, eh?
An oddball, no doubt.
An oddball, no doubt.
This is not a nice story if you hate snakes. Actually, even if you like them, this is not a nice story.
Okay, I am bracing myself.
Yes. Once upon a time, just the other day, in your home state of Texas, Mom, a woman was out in her yard, minding her own business, mowing her lawn.
Very good.
Oh, it was all very good. Until a snake fell from the sky.
Excuse me?
You heard me right. A snake just fell from the sky.
Okay.
No, this is not a supernatural tale, but a very slithery story of a hawk that dropped its prey.
Oh, a hawk was flying past with a snake in its mouth and, yawned or something, and then dropped the poor thing?
Or maybe the snake was just wriggling around. And what are the chances of it landing and wrapping itself right on the arm of the only person nearby?
Slim to none, I would have thought.
quite, but defying the odds, that's what happened. And sadly, the story gets worse.
How does it get worse than a snake falling from the sky and wrapping itself around your arm?
Because the hawk, a Harris hawk, swoops down to retrieve its prey, doesn't it?
Oh.
And a bloody snake fight ensues. Literally, that is. I am not swearing. It gets bloody. After tearing up the woman's arm, eventually, that hawk finally flies away with the snake.
Ooh, that sounds painful.
Yes, and while there was blood, and yes, snake venom everywhere, the woman has, for the most part, been okay, despite the injured arm.
And it's time to wrap up the podcast with
The top 5 facts heard today.
Fab fact number 1. The second, I repeat, second largest island in Hawaii is reeling from the devastation of wildfires. What is the name of the island? Maui. Fab fact number 2.
What's the name of a collection of islands in the middle of the sea? Archipelago.
Fab fact number 3. Russia and India were both trying to land their probes on the south side of the moon first, but sadly Russia's Lunar 25 crashed in its attempt. Why is the south side of the moon so important? Because it might have frozen water. Fab fact number 4.
The original space race to get humans onto the moon was between whom? The US and Russia, or the Soviet Union to be exact.
Fab fact number 5. Spain wins their first Women's World Cup in soccer, beating England 1-0. What is the nickname of both teams? Spain is called La Roja, as in the red one, and the English players are nicknamed the Lionesses. Hey, and don't forget, if you want to test yourself later on, or your class if you're a teacher, then go to the Lucky Dip page of our website, newsypooloozy.com. That's pool as in a swimming pool. POOLOOZI. And take this quiz online in your own time.
And that brings us to the end of this episode of Newsy Paloozy. Thanks for listening.
And for not forgetting about us over our very long break.
Totally, we missed y'all. So why not write to us and say hello? We'd love to hear from you and know what you were up to over the summer. In the meantime, stay curious. We'll see you next week in the happy, splashy, giant Newsy Paloozy.